All right, welcome to the rundown. We're going to be getting into Micah Parsons requesting a trade, Terry McLaurin requesting a trade, and how that impacts their respective franchises. A little bit of Chargers talk, and Luka Doncic signing an extension with the Lakers. So let's start off with Micah Parsons requesting a trade. And honestly, this was the next step in the saga, other than Jerry Jones signing him to a long-term deal. And it makes sense why he wants out. The Jones have not been very nice to him in the media, whether it's Jerry talking about how, well, even if we sign him, it doesn't mean he's going to play. He missed 6 games last year, and Stephen Jones talking about he has to want to be paid. And I don't get why the Jones are alienating their franchise superstar like this. I mean, other than some comments here and there, Micah has done nothing but represent the Cowboys the right way. It's very evident that he wants to be a Cowboy and he wants to stay there for the long term. But I mean, the Jones are just like speaking out against him for wanting a contract that's commensurate with some of the other defensive players in the league. And Michael Parsons came out with a statement talking about how after his third year, he wanted to get something done, but the Cowboys didn't want to start negotiations. And he was like, fine, okay, I'll play out the fourth year. Played out the fourth year. And right after the 2024 season ended, he was like, hey, let's try to get something done. And the Cowboys didn't want to start negotiations. And his agent even told him, hey, let's wait a little bit later because you may get paid even more money based on how some of these other deals play out. And he was like, nah, I want to be a Cowboy. But the Cowboys, they just did not want to start negotiations whatsoever. And then Micah Parsons also talked about how he and Jerry had a conversation on leadership, and somehow that devolved into contract negotiations and what Micah thinks he should get paid, and how Jerry kind of thought it was like a contract negotiation, and how his agent reached out to the Jones and they didn't want to start any negotiations whatsoever. And that's ridiculous. I mean, Jerry has been in the NFL to know long enough that you don't start contract negotiations with the player directly. You go through the agent. Unless that player is self-represented, you don't start contract negotiations with that player. And I don't know, he decided to pull a fast one, but it didn't work. And I just don't like this. I think it may get to a point where Micah's going to have to hold out a few games and Jerry Jones is going to have to cave and pay him if the Cowboys just don't start out as well defensively and their defense is maybe faltering. They're maybe, I don't know, 1-2, 2-3, something like that. And Jerry Jones is like, fine, I'll pay you what you want because we're a better team with you and I want to make the playoffs and make more revenue. So there is that. And honestly, I don't think it's going to get to a point where Micah is not going to want to be a Cowboy. He may not like management, but a multi-million dollar check can heal a lot of wounds. And if he feels he's getting paid what he deserves, I think that'll, you know, be a step in progress and he'll want to be a Cowboy and, he'll forget about all the hatred or some of the dislike he has towards Jerry and Stephen Jones and management and just how they've decided to do these contract negotiations. But I hope he leaves, man, because Jerry Jones, he's just starting to lose it. He made some wild comments last year, whether it was him talking about how they couldn't have used Derrick Henry, even though Derrick Henry wanted to be a Cowboy. That was his first choice, has a place out there, and rushed for almost 2,000 yards. But Jerry Jones is like, oh, he doesn't fit our scheme. Well, if he doesn't fit your scheme, find a way to adjust your scheme to him. I mean, that's really not an excuse to sign a running back who can rush for almost 2,000 yards. Those don't just grow on trees. And all-time great NFL coaches say a quarterback's best friend is a good running game. And Dak had some of his best seasons when Ezekiel Elliott was running the ball down opposing defenses' throats. But I guess Jerry Jones thought Dak should shoulder more of a load since he's getting paid a lot of money. But I don't know, that was ridiculous. And Derrick Henry only signed a 2-year, $16 million deal with the Baltimore Ravens. So, I mean, it's not like he was asking for like $16, $20 million like he was paying Ezekiel Elliott, who did not live up to that deal whatsoever. And it turned out to be a bad deal very, very, very quickly. I mean, even if Derrick Henry, for some reason, didn't perform at his best, it's only 2 years, $16 million. I think only like one of those years was fully guaranteed. Could have easily gotten rid of him, but I don't know. I guess they decided not to go that direction. And then he also made some other weird comments talking about how there's no better general manager for the Cowboys than him. And I mean, that's typical Jerry. I mean, he has a lot of hubris and confidence, so nothing new is there with that. And then there was also that weird story where on his local radio appearances, he was having a conversation with the radio host. They were questioning him about some of his management decisions. And I don't know, he just went off on one of them and he basically talked about how, well, I can have someone else ask these questions, basically, insinuating that he can get them fired. And that was just very, very bad practice. And I don't think that it's going to get much better anytime soon with Jerry getting older because, as soon as you get older, a lot of people, they lose their mental faculties or they just don't care about how their words affect other people and they don't care about offending other people. And they're like, well, I'm just going to say what I want to say. And it looks like Jerry is definitely getting to that point. And even once they transition down to Stephen Jones and he's going to be running the operation, I don't know how much of a better general manager he can be. And I know that's crazy to say because the Cowboys haven't been to a NFC Championship game in 30 years, but it certainly can be a lot of worse. I mean, they can be the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Chicago Bears, but who knows? Maybe they'll be able to turn it around with Caleb Williams. But I think Jerry is enjoying all of this. I mean, there's going to be a Netflix documentary coming out later this month about the Cowboys and Jerry Jones's tenure running the Cowboys. And he basically talked about in one clip how this is a soap opera 365 days a year. And that's what he loves the most. He loves making it a soap opera. He loves people talking about the Cowboys. He loves all the TV shows talking about the Cowboys, good or bad. And he's a marketing genius. I can't deny that. He's a business genius also. I mean, he bought the Cowboy for what? Like very low number relative to like how much NFL teams are worth today and he's made it a multi-billion-dollar operation. I can't argue with that. And even though the Cowboys haven't won in like 30 years and haven't really won big, he still made them one of the most valuable franchises in the world. So I can't argue with his business tactics or his marketing tactics. But just as a general manager and the on-field result, it's been pretty putrid to say the least. And I'm sure every Cowboys fan would agree with me in that regard. But I don't think Micah's going to get traded. But I think eventually down the line, even if he does stay and he does sign a long-term contract, I think he's going to want out at some point. I mean, the Cowboys haven't won anything in 30 years. It just seems like Stephen A says there's a black cat running around that franchise. It just seems that they're cursed. I mean, not making it to an NFC Championship game in 30 years is wild. I mean, the Chicago Bears have made it to an NFC Championship game. They made it to that Super Bowl where they lost against the Colts. The Jacksonville Jaguars have made it to a championship game, and those are some of the two worst franchises in the NFL, and they've been far. The Cardinals, they haven't had a lot of success, and they've made it to an NFC Championship game. Heck, they made it to a Super Bowl with Kurt Warner, and they made an NFC Championship game with Carson Palmer. I mean, that's insane. And the Cowboys, during that entire time span, have not made it to an NFC Championship game. I mean, I got to be honest, that's pretty hard to do, not to do that in this century. And we're going to be going into 2026, and I presume they're probably not going to make it in 2026 either. So, yeah, they just don't win. Jerry Jones, like I said, is not a good general manager. They just don't have winning habits. Whatever coach Jerry Jones hires, it's basically a puppet, and the coach has to do what Jerry says. And Jerry Jones is all in the media. He has to be the voice and the face of the team, while other owners, they like to stay in the background and they let their coaches handle the media. They let their players handle the media, but not Jerry. And I'm sure it's got to be somewhat of a distraction for a coach in order for him to like focus to the best of his abilities when the owner is consistently making comments about the state of the team. I mean, other owners, while they may not be in the media, I mean, they sometimes do make decisions behind the scenes and sometimes control a lot behind the scenes, but they don't really aren't front facing and they don't talk to the media on a regular basis unless like they make a big hire or they fire a longtime coach. So that just doesn't show me that they're serious about winning, even though Jerry says otherwise. And then there's also this other thing where people can just visit the practice facility, and I'm sure that's got to be distracting the players. Like, they're just trying to get their treatment, they're trying to get their work in, and they just have all these random people, coming around the building. I'm sure that's got to be somewhat off-putting. I mean, I'm sure it's not the worst thing in the world, and maybe it's not the biggest inconvenience, but I'm sure it certainly isn't ideal, and I'm not sure that players absolutely enjoy that. And they also have the third best quarterback in the division. I think Jalen Hurts is better. I think Jaden Daniels is better. And when you're the third best quarterback in your division, it's kind of tough. I mean, I'm sure there will be years where the Cowboys win the division, but I don't know. It's just tough. And I mean, for the longest time, the Commanders have stunk. The Giants have stunk. I mean, the Eagles, some years, they sucked. And the Cowboys had like a good hold on that division, but they don't have that anymore. And it's going to get harder and harder for them to do that. And even when they were able to win their division or like be a top seed, they still got knocked out in the playoffs very early. And I think at a certain point Micah is going to be like, I want to win. He strikes me as a guy who really wants to win, and eventually he's going to be like, well, while I love playing for the Cowboys and everything that comes with it, I want to play for a winning culture. And I think at some point down the line, even if it's not this season, he's going to want out. So I think that's how that's going to unfold in the past next few years. Now I want to talk about another team in their division, and that's the Washington Commanders. Terry McLaurin wants out because they're just not able to agree on a contract. And it's a big deal if the Commanders do trade Terry McLaurin and they don't get a big time wide receiver back. I mean, according to ESPN, when Terry McLaurin is on the field, Jaden Daniels has a total QBR of 73.8 with him, but then it's 63 without him across 90 dropbacks. And it makes sense. Jaden Daniels loves to throw the deep ball. McLaurin loves to go deep. They have a very good connection. So it makes sense why he would struggle a little bit without Terry McLaurin. But kind of like Micah Parsons, I don't think that they're going to get traded. And Bill Barnwell agrees with me. Bill Barnwell brought up the fact how Terry McLaurin may be wanting a deal kind of similar to DK Metcalf's, where he got a 4-year, $132 million deal, and how, he has a right to ask for that. Metcalf, throughout his career, has had 438 catches for 6,324 yards and 48 touchdowns. And McLaurin has 460 catches for 6,379 yards and 38 touchdowns. And DK Metcalf has had played with some pretty good to decent quarterbacks. I mean, Russell Wilson, even throughout the end of his Seattle tenure, he was still a baller. I mean, there was that one year where I think he came in second in MVP to Lamar. Gino was a pretty decent quarterback, and other than Jaden Daniels this past year, Terry McLaurin hasn't had anything close to that. So for him to put up bigger numbers than DK Metcalf, even despite having a worse supporting cast, is pretty impressive. But one thing is that McLaurin is older than DK Metcalf, and he's on 30. And Bill Barnwell talked about how owners and general managers are reticent to pay players after 30 because they tend to fall off drastically. And also, he just doesn't have the leverage. I mean, at least DK, when he got traded from Seattle to Pittsburgh, he had the leverage because Pittsburgh gave up some assets to get him, and they had to sign him to a long-term deal so that he wouldn't walk away in free agency. So the market isn't as great for Terry. I mean, no team is going to break out the bank to sign him, and hopefully his agent is telling him what the market is looking like for him, because if for some reason he gets traded, he's not going to get the big deal that he so desperately wants. And it's going to be a big loss for the Commanders if they lose Terry McLaurin. I brought up Jaden Daniels and his QBR rating, but Deebo Samuels, while I think he's going to have a bounce back year from San Francisco and whatever that weird situation was last year, I don't think he can be a number one wide receiver, not at this point in his career. And if Terry leaves, it's going to leave a big hole, and they're going to have to give more responsibility to dudes like Noah Brown, Michael Gallup, Luke McCaffrey, and a lot of those dudes are young, and I just don't think they're ready to shoulder the responsibility and become like star-studded wide receivers and be able to help Jaden Daniels and become Super Bowl contenders. And hopefully him and the Commanders can come across a deal where he can get in the high 20s, because the Commanders have one of the best things in professional sports, and that's a quarterback on a rookie deal, because you see how these quarterback deals are going. I mean, Dak signed for pretty much $60 million, and I'm sure Jaden is going to want more than that, or if he's nice, he'll want a little bit lower than that. But nonetheless, the Commanders are going to have to break out the bank for him. And while he is on that rookie contract, they're going to have to sign players so that, and sign as much players as they can so that they can make a Super Bowl run. And they have done that, to give them credit. I mean, they traded for Laramie Tunzel. They got Debo Samuels. They signed Jonathan Jones. They got Von Miller. So they're definitely making moves. There's no doubt about that. But they just have to sign Terry McLaurin because he's just an important, integral part of that offense. And without him, it's just not going to be the same. I mean, every year you're not guaranteed to contend for a Super Bowl. I mean, just ask the Bills, just ask the Ravens, just ask the Bengals. I mean, the Bills and Ravens, they haven't been to a Super Bowl. The Bengals, they went to that Super Bowl in 2021. That next season, they did go to an AFC Championship game, but after that, it's been bad, and who knows if they're ever gonna get back to the Super Bowl. I mean, Dan Marino went to a Super Bowl in like his second year, and after that, he never went back. So you're not guaranteed to always contend for Super Bowls, and even if you get there, you're not guaranteed to make it back, whether you win or lose it. So I hope the Commanders understand that they have to sign as many players as they can while Jaden Daniels is under his rookie contract, and hopefully win a Super Bowl in that time span and just get the Commanders back to where they haven't been to since the late 80s and early 90s and be Super Bowl winners. But, I just think this is a little bump in the road. I think Terry is going to get in the mid to high 20s and he'll be taken care of. And while it's not the contract that he wants, and maybe he won't get as much as the Justin Jeffersons, the Jamar Chases of those world, I mean, he'll still get a pretty good contract. And he also has to understand that he's on the wrong side of 30. And, wide receivers have just dropping off. I mean, Julio Jones was a great wide receiver, and he was probably the best wide receiver in the game. And he fell off drastically. He only played I think 12, 13 years in the NFL. McLaurin is going into his seventh year, and he's already 30. He came out of college kind of late, so he has to understand what he has going against him, and hopefully he signs a long-term deal with the Commanders, because if he does, I definitely think they can be Super Bowl contenders. Now I want to go over to the AFC and talk about the Los Angeles Chargers. They played their Hall of Fame game last week against the Detroit Lions, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the Chargers can do this season. It really seems like Jim Harbaugh has just turned that culture around after, for lack of a better term, the shit show it was under Brandon Staley. Whether it was him consistently putting out bad defenses or, blowing big leads or going for it on fourth down, even though it might have not been the smartest decision, and him just going off the analytics, even though it wasn't the smartest or wise decision, not understanding time and place, and just blowing that big playoff lead against the Jaguars where they were up 27-0 and they just flat out blew it. I mean, that's one of the biggest playoff chokes I've ever seen in my life, other than that Atlanta Patriots Super Bowl. I can't remember a bigger choke than that. I mean, they had that game and they just blew it. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They just lost. And while they did well in this regular season, they did not perform well in the playoffs, and Justin Herbert in particular did not perform well at all. He threw 4 interceptions. He just seemed rattled, and so far in his 2 playoff appearances, he just hasn't played well, and I think it's fair to judge quarterbacks on how well they play in the playoffs. I mean, Lamar Jackson is a 2-time MVP, should have been a 3-time MVP, but, people are like, there's still questions around Lamar Jackson. Can he get it done in the playoffs? I mean, Matthew Stafford had nothing in Detroit, had horrible management, horrible coaching, did not have good talent around him whatsoever. But while he was in Detroit, people were like, well, I mean, Matthew Stafford really isn't a top 10 quarterback because he just doesn't make it to the playoffs and he hasn't won in the playoffs. And it wasn't until he got to the Rams and he actually got great coaching and great management and really good talent around him, and he won that Super Bowl against the Bengals where people were like, okay, Matthew Stafford is a really good quarterback. I mean, that's just the way it goes, and the playoffs are the most high leverage moments, and if you don't perform well in those high leverage moments, it's hard to put you in that same class as a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen or a Joe Burrow, or heck, even a Jaden Daniels, who as a rookie has already won 2 playoff games and has made it to an NFC Championship game and has shown that he's a clutch quarterback. And CJ Stroud, who, while he had a down year this year, he won a playoff games. 2 years in, he's already won 2 playoff games, and he's definitely had a hand in turning that Texans team around. So hopefully Justin Herbert is able to play well in the playoffs in 2026. I'm not going to say he has to win a playoff game, and the reason I'm saying that is because they just don't have enough playmaking talent. Other than Lad McConkey and Najee Harris, they just don't have a lot. I mean, Quentin Johnson's going to have to take that next step, and I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. Joshua Palmer, he left, and while they were able to get Najee Harris, they did lose their other running backs in J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, and I just don't think that's going to be enough to contend with the best teams in the AFC. So that's why I'm not saying Justin Herbert has to win a playoff game when normally I would, but he definitely has to play well and show that, like, he's not the reason they lost. We can't look at next year and be like, oh, Justin Herbert is the reason they lost. He wet the bed. We can't say that. He has to perform in the playoffs sometime or the other, and hopefully he's able to do it in 2026, and hopefully down the line when the Chargers are able to accumulate more playmaking talent, he can get some playoff wins because he's a very talented guy. I mean, he's 6'6", he has a cannon of an arm, he can run, and he should be among the best quarterbacks in the league, and we should put him in that high level class with a Josh Allen, a Joe Burrow, or even a Lamar Jackson. Now I want to talk about Luka Doncic signing a 3-year, $165 million deal with the Lakers. I thought Luka would play out this year, but it certainly doesn't surprise me that he decided to sign this extension. I guess after getting shunned by the Mavericks and, him wanting to stay with Dallas, he just wants to stay with a team and just have that long-term security. And once his deal is up in 2028, he can sign a 5-year, $400 million deal with the team and be one of the first players to earn more than $1 million per game. And I'm sure Luka appreciates being included in personnel decisions and making sure that he feels that he's a part of the Lakers family like they've done with their other superstars. I mean, like I said, they include him on personal decisions up to the point of alienating LeBron James, and it's just very clear that the Lakers are going all in on the Luka Doncic experience. And the Lakers are so fortunate, man. After LeBron is going to retire, it was just going to look so bleak for them. I mean, I love Anthony Davis, and he's a Hall of Famer, but not a transformational player like a Luka Doncic. And Luka's a guy that if you surround him even with not the best pieces, he can still get you to 40 wins like so many great superstars can do, like a Tim Duncan in the past, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James in his prime, Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Luka can just carry a franchise on his shoulders, and he can't only carry a franchise on his shoulders, he's also going to be able to sell tickets, which is something that the Lakers desperately needed. I mean, they had that post Kobe stretch and pre LeBron stretch for 5 years. They just did not have players that could sell out arenas, and they also didn't field a good team that made people want to come to the arena. And Los Angeles is a place where if the team sucks, I mean, the fans aren't just going to show out and support them. I mean, there's so many things to do in Los Angeles that fans aren't going to waste their hard-earned money and just show up and support a team that stinks. So they have a superstar in Luka Doncic that's going to be able to sell out arenas and be able to get you wins as long as you surround him with adequate talent. And I'm looking forward to seeing the Lakers next year. Probably going to be LeBron James's last year, excuse me. And well, I do think they're in a class below the Denvers, the Houstons, the OKCs, of course. I still think they got a shot considering the parity that there is in the NBA in this modern era, and they definitely have a shot of making it out of the Western Conference. So I'm excited to see Luka become a long-term Laker and hopefully win some games and hopefully win a championship for himself and be among the greatest players. And I'm glad that he's sticking around, and I'm happy that he got the extension. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have. I'll be back Wednesday to talk about more NFL stuff or even NBA stuff if something pops up. And yeah, thank you so much for watching.